Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Netter. I'm a volunteer here with the RCC, and I'm going to be kind of the moderator and semi-host here tonight. Just to let you know what we're doing, the reason you're not seeing participants is this is being done as a webinar, meaning that the focus tonight is on the candidates that are running for the California Republican Party, and each of them is going to come on in order. Tonight we have Mike Cargile, Mark Wright, David Dillon, Greg Gandrew, and Tom Hudson, who's going to talk about some bylaws that are being proposed. In the chat box, if you want to participate, you can see the chat. And in that chat box, you'll be able to chat with myself, the host, and the panelist, just to keep the noise down, because all of you are impassioned patriots. We have the chat feature turned off where you can chat with each other, but you can chat with us. So the format tonight, to get to the point, is again, we're going to start off with Steve Frank, the leader of the RCC, who's going to say a few words here, and then each of the candidates and Tom Hudson are going to give 2 to 3 minutes on their position, the office that they're running for, and why they're running for it. Comments, of course, can be made again to the host and the panelist only, and we have the question and answer feature turned on. I also have a poll feature turned on. Interested in seeing the sample set that we have tonight, how many of you are attending the convention? With that, I'm going to turn it over to the mighty Steve Frank. Steve, unmute yourself and you're on the air.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate you moderating the event tonight. The Republican Conservative Coalition was formed in August as a organization of conservative organizations, statewide, regional, and local leaders for the purpose of organizing and coalescing conservatives around our values and principles. Instead of going into election years and conventions as disorganized individuals, as people with same views but different methods of getting the views heard, the Republican Conservative Coalition was formed just for the purpose of creating a team effort of conservatives to fight for the Republican values and principles. And that starts with the election of our endorsed candidates for CRP office. It will go on to the platform committee, trying to get our people elected to the platform committee, and then getting the platform that befits a conservative organization as the California Republican Party should be. Mike, I appreciate you hosting again, and I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Steve. I felt like it's a game show, and it kind of is. So, because the game we're playing here again is to try to bring equalization to the Republican Party in a fair and powerful contest. And the next I would like to introduce Mike Cargile. Again, Steve, go back on mute if you could. Not that I don't love you, brother, but I don't hear you chatting. It is a game show. And now it's on to Mike Cargile, who's running for CA GOP chair. Mike, you've got 2 to 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes because you're running for chair. Tell us why you're running. Tell us who you are. And later on, the audience is going to get the chance to ask you questions. And know the fabulous prizes that you will win will actually be abuse working for the Party of California. To you, Mike Cargile.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me on, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time checking in tonight and listening to the candidates and what we have to say. It's very important. Our party is broken, and that's just the sad truth of it. The Republican Party right now wins about 20% of the races it's involved with. We have, out of 52 seats in the House of Representatives, we have 12. Of the 80 seats in the Assembly, we have 18. In the Senate, the state Senate, out of 40 seats, we have 8. We have 0 representation in the executive branch and 0 representation in the judicial branch. For all intensive purposes, the California Republican Party is irrelevant. Right now, if we close this party down tomorrow, nothing in California would change. And that is a shame, because this is the party that gave the world Ronald Reagan, and we're about to hand the world Gavin Newsom. This shouldn't be so. but we can fix it. And that's why I'm running. Out of the congressional races, I saw what was broken in our party, and I want to fix it. Because when we don't get Republicans in office, evil people get into office, and we're all suffering right now under this evil that has permeated across our state and our country because Republicans aren't in office. We're the conscience of the country. When evil rears its head, the party that's supposed to be there to fight back is the Republican Party. And we're conservative by nature. You can't be a Republican and not be conservative. So let me talk just for a second about the difference in the leadership and then the voter. So the voter can pick and choose who they're going to vote for because they're more or less like one party or the other. But when it comes to the party leadership, you have to be all in or all out. And the thing that dictates this for our party is our party platform. It is a conservative document. It is a moral document. And it is a document that our current leadership wants nothing to do with. And because they don't agree with our platform, they don't support our platform, and they don't promote our platform. And when we don't stand on our platform, we don't stand on anything. And this is why we lose races. We win races. We win races when we occupy the moral high ground. And that's what our party's here for. We are the party of Reagan, but we can't be the party of Reagan if we don't have the values of Reagan. And that's who I am. I want to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I want to message this across the Latino population. I have an affinity for the labor and trade unions, but more than anyone, the average voter of California is they're looking for us because the world is dark and it seems like it's getting darker and more evil every day. And they're looking for that light, that shining light on the hill. Then we will direct them back to where we came from. The traditional conservative values that built this party, sustained this state, can be the Republican Party once again. And that's why I'm running for chairman of the California Republican Party. Okay, Mike.
Wow, wrapping up on time. I'm impressed. Maybe we can get out of a GOP meeting and not miss my plane. Mike, thanks a lot. Remember, and I'm going to get to these questions. Mike, I'd like to roll to a few questions here because you were so quick. I have a question here. What are the top, which I think is important, what are the top 3 things that you'll do versus what Jessica Patterson is doing today?
Well, there's a lot actually, but the top 3 would be, obviously, we need massive voter registration. We need a robust top to bottom ballot harvesting program. But inside the GOP itself is broken. We have an organization of county chairs that is being completely underutilized and completely mismanaged, as well as the college Republicans. So we've got the leadership of the old and the new, and I want to bring them inside the GOP building. I want them to have an office. I want the chair of chairs there. So the GOP will manage races from federal level down to county, from county and below. We want the county chairs responsible for that through the CCA, through the chair of chairs. And right now, what we've been seeing or witnessing in Sacramento is the same thing our founders fought against. And that's this accumulation or the centralization of power. And we need to decentralize this back to the counties and their chairs, and less in Sacramento. Sacramento doesn't need to be managing school board races and the like. This should be handled by the county chairs. And we need to sort of reorient this power structure completely of the GOP. We don't need to micromanage everything. We have the infrastructure. It's just not being utilized right.
Mike, thanks a lot. We're going to come back to you for questions in a few minutes. Watching the comments here, if the video is frozen, it may be the connection on your end. And just in case everybody doesn't know, my co-host Heather Colby tonight, for example, there's a lot of power outages up and down the state. Shocking, because our state does such a good job managing our infrastructure. And so there may be a few challenges here. But next, I'd like to go, Mike, thank you very much. I'm going to put you back on mute. If we could go next to Mr. Mark Wright. Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Next up, we have Mark Wright running for CRP Vice Chair. Mark, take your 3 to 5 minutes of fame.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for coming to listen to what we have to say. Reason I'm running for vice chair is because I think the party is broken, like Mike was saying. And one of the biggest things I see is broken in the party is the county chairs and the county parties are not working very well. They're not being supported by the state party. Actually, the state party makes it hard for them to exist. And like Placer County, we've been winning. If you want to win, we need to bring what we do at Placer County to the rest of the state. We had a 84% success rate. Like Mike was saying, there's only 20% across the state. We had Kevin Kiley won, Joe Patterson won, all of our state guys won. Our school boards, we've taken over 13 school boards. We have the Board of Supervisors is Republican. So we are working hard in Placer County because we have a strong local party. And the way to have a strong local party is to help build coalitions with other groups in your parties, in your area. Like, for instance, we work with the CRA and Republican Women Federated and with Freedom Coalition. There's 11 other groups. So we worked with inside of Placer County to get the word out and to recruit and find people to run. Like Moms for Liberty are people who are looking for school board members. So going with Moms for Liberty, we were able to actually find more quality school board members to run who are parents who really have a passion for having the schools be good for all of our students. So we're about safety. And the way to have safety is have good schools. And we don't need schools to indoctrinate our kids. We need schools to educate our kids. We need to learn about math, reading, and writing. That's what we need to do at school. But without a local party being strong or defunct, then we're not going to have that. So if you want the state CAGOP to be better, you have to have the county parties be better. And I think there's a lot of things the state party could do to support the county parties. For instance, they could give them a little bit of cash for every person they get on the ballot. And they also could have a bounty program for everyone who wins. And that would help make the county parties even stronger. And that would get the message out, because there's a lot of messaging the state party wants to get out, but they can't do it because they don't have the outreach to all the local communities. And that's where the county parties come into existence to actually help the local counties. And so if you want a strong state COP, we need a strong county party. So please elect me so I can help bring this knowledge and help it spread across the whole state. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much. Some people are asking what my background is. I guess I assumed everybody knows. I'm one of the people with Orrin Heatley that started the recall of Gavin Newsom. And so I've been doing this for about 3 years, not as long as these veterans. And I co-host a radio show, and we do a Rebuild California town hall every Wednesday night. Quick plug there. Next, I'd like to go to David Dillon. David, are you there?
I just unmuted here.
I'm happy for you, David. Tell us what you're running for. Tell us why you're running. And for God's sakes, because I'm an idiot, explain to me what the job does.
Absolutely. So Mr. Wright's left shoulder kept disappearing. So I hope my face doesn't disappear during this blinking in and out. I don't know if anyone else saw that. His left shoulder was coming in and out. So
it's the job of the producer to make your face disappear. Be nice to me.
Thank you. You know, I'm 61 years old, and I run a nonprofit regarding patriotism, and I love my political party. I love the Republican Party. I'm old enough to remember Reagan and Mason and Wilson and all those days, probably like most people who are listening. And I guess this was a building up of how can I try to actually give back? I know that's a little trite, but it was just watching these elections. And this last one was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was making notes from the prior presentations. We have 18 members of the assembly. And so I remember it was a kind of a big thing when we could stop the supermajority and have a little bit of veto, and we don't even have that. And so I've decided to run for secretary. I've met my opponent. He's a very nice man, and I really like him. At the time when I decided, he was, I think, running for vice chair, and then he's moved back into that. But I really enjoy my visit with him. So it's not, not running against anybody. I'm just running for something. And so I've learned that I want to be able to stay in my lane and do something very, very well. So the job of secretary, as everyone knows, it primarily deals with voter integrity. There's also a component of, the meetings and of course being in charge of the minutes and so on. One of the things you learn as a candidate is when you're talking to people on the phone or traveling and so on. And again, as mentioned prior, there are so many subdivisions of our party, and it's wonderful. Women's Federated, conservative groups, college Republicans, et cetera. I mean, so many. In a big state, you would expect that with 6 million plus Republicans. But one of the things that's been, I won't say discouraging, but it's been kind of a tapping of the brakes of your enthusiasm, is that you want to get in there, you want to win, and you want to kind of work with everybody. And I do work with everybody. I like everybody that's there now and the folks that are running and those that I've met. But you feel like there's a little bit of bumps in the road and things that are going to need correcting. A lot of it's just communications. There's a lot of folks out there that don't feel there's transparency. Look, I was elected official for 16 years, a councilman and mayor, and you're not going to make everybody happy. And there's always problems here and there. There's always somebody who shows up at a council meeting and takes over for 15 minutes and talks about everything that's wrong. So I get that, but at the same time, there's a lot of it out there. So I believe that we need to somehow be better ambassadors out there and make everyone realize that you can trust us. And we are a party that cares and can get our messaging out. I think we can win better and bigger if we get improve in our messaging. But back to secretary. The job is voter integrity. And again, when you're calling around or sending emails, you hear stories of what goes on in multiple counties, including my own in Imperial County. The kinds of things that happen are shocking. And I think you have to address the lack of being efficient at the government level. There's a lot of elections departments that are just not good or good enough. And then, of course, there's groups that are harvesting votes and all that stuff, which is interesting because I just can't stand it that we win an election night and 14 days later we lose. And so I can't stand anything about voter harvesting or anything that involved with that. But I know there's some correcting that we have to do there. But you learn all this stuff and you realize that you can get in. And it takes about, maybe, I don't know if it'll take a term to just try to retune a lot of this stuff up. I know Greg's following. He's been in for years. He probably could tell us what the first 2 years were like in the next 2 years. But I'm hoping to address voter integrity up and down the state and be able to make Republicans feel like it's a fairer process. And when they're just blowing air in the wind, we need to tell them that as well. And so that's what I want to do. But I also want to get out of my lane a little bit and support something that is closest to my heart, work with the next vice chair. And I believe their role is voter registration, and do whatever I can with funding and outside funding to finally get some a real voter registration program, especially for our youth. We get killed from 17-year-old to 30-year-olds. We got demolished nationally on this at that age group in this last election, and we need to fight. When you actually educate voters, I find in my lifetime, when you actually talk about issues, most people are Republicans. That was true in the 80s. It's true today. You talk about guarding your border, law enforcement, school choice. It doesn't matter what your party is. You'll find that people are, but they're not registered that way or voting that way because they just say, what the heck? And so hopefully we can change that. And I look forward to working with as many people as I can to do that.
Thanks a lot, David. Go ahead and go back on mute there.
If you heard me, my face stayed on the whole time.
Yes, your face stayed on the whole time, for better or for worse, David Dillon. Quick thing for everybody there in clarification here. We are all Republicans, and I want to be clear here. We have disagreements for office, but we are on the same side, okay? And we have debates about various issues. And for everybody out there, I know there's some new delegates on tonight. This is about the election. If you're a delegate, you get a vote in election of the people that we have on tonight in the bylaws. Many things which are really legit questions that I've been ranting and raving about on the air and throughout California for the last 3 years about water to the Central Valley, America First, and other policies are the job of electeds. And the problem we have is we don't have enough elected, which is why many of us just want to see a change within our party so we can expand it, get better voter registration, and frankly, get more of our people elected.
Can I say one more thing?
You can.
It just happened today in the news, and I'll call Steve Frank and he'll help me clarify it a little bit. He always does that for me. But I don't know if it's Judicial Watch or whatever, but they purged 1.2 million voters.
Well, that's not exactly true.
Okay.
That's a whole story for another depth. What they agreed to do is look at those voters, and rather than get into that, you as a secretary will be in charge of election integrity, and we have a whole project going where we're going into depth on that. But first, we have to get people in office, and that I think is a really big key and a change, no matter what that change is. Greg, I think you're up next. Are you there?
I am here. Hello, everybody.
Well, Greg, you shouldn't wear a tie and just show me up. That's rather upsetting, but you are running for treasurer. So
I'm trying to look better than Mike Cargill. He always looks so impressive. So, little red, white, and blue never hurt anybody. So I am an America First Republican, and I am Gregory Gandrud. I am very pleased to have received the endorsement from the Republican Conservative Coalition. I am the incumbent treasurer. I am in my second 2-year term and am running now for my final term as treasurer. I do have a financial background in my professional life. I have my own accounting practice. I've been practicing for about 30 years in Santa Barbara County, and I've been a grassroots activist for a long time. I was a college Republican at USC, where I graduated with honors in 1982 in financial management. And I was elected to the Central Committee in Santa Barbara County about 23 years ago. I served as treasurer there for 9 years, worked my way through the ranks, served as secretary and vice chair, and finally was chairman of the Santa Barbara County Republican Party. I was elected to the Carpinteria City Council. I was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger to the California Recreational Trails Committee. I have overseen in the last 4 years $72 million of Republican money. Our finances are complex. I'm also responsible for all the campaign finance reporting, federal and state. We have 13 bank accounts that we use to manage all of our fundraising and payment of our bills. I oversee our whole treasury operation. We have a controller who does, really the heavy lifting. I do look at every page of all the expenditures. I'm always looking to reduce any type of waste. We've instituted procedures to prevent there from being fraud, particularly wire fraud. Money moves around very, very quickly around election time, and the system possibly could have mistakes, but I do my best to make sure that we don't have any. I do look at everything personally. Sometimes we have dozens of wire transfers, on a given day. And I go through each and every one of those and, double check all the math, double check the payees, the bank accounts, make sure. And I'm happy to say that not a penny has been out of place during my tenure. I think I have good relationships with the other members of the board and with staff. I think right now, what we really need to be trying to do is to unify the Republican Party. Regardless of who's elected, we need to all agree to support the winners and to work hard to build the party. We need to raise more money. I hear people saying, why can't we give more money to all the candidates all over the state? Some of these targeted races that we just won, we won only by a handful of votes, just a few hundred votes in many of these races. Imagine if we had taken resources away from those races and put them elsewhere. So I think rather than arguing over how to divide a small pie, we need to be growing the pie. There are a lot of people who don't give any money to the Republican Party at all. We need to reach out to those people and get them on board, whether it's $5 a month or, whatever people can afford. We need more money, more volunteers, more candidates to be electing Republicans at all levels. And there are a number of issues that I feel very passionately about. 4 years ago, I was involved in filing one of the first lawsuits in the country to fight against critical race theory, to stop the indoctrination of our kids. We've seen those lawsuits expand all over the country, but at the same time, we see worse things happening, with the kids, with, things like just ridiculous things like drag queen story hour and telling kids they can be whatever gender they want. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And we're living in a very dangerous world, with Biden being so weak. China has gotten stronger. The Russians have gotten stronger. We're in a very dangerous world. I survived 3 weeks in the ICU in the fall of 2021. I believe the Chinese made that virus in a laboratory. I don't know if they let it out on purpose or not, but I almost died. And I've seen the corruption between our federal government regulators who are supposed to be keeping us safe. Corruption with the big pharma trying to force us, to do all kinds of experimental treatments and things. I am a very strong advocate for medical freedom and for the First Amendment. I will not be canceled. Fortunately, I'm in a position where, I can speak my mind. I can do what's right. I don't have to worry about, losing my paycheck. I'm financially independent. I will continue to work for our freedom and speak my mind and do everything that I can to protect and preserve our republic and our way of life. So I look forward to your questions and appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Greg, we do have some questions I want to throw at you, first-time delegates. Where do they see the financials of the party? And they're asking how the funds get distributed. And this may be more for a chairperson question.
Yeah, no, I can answer that. I'm happy to answer that. So all of our finances are reported publicly. There are FEC reports which are filed every month, every single month. Around the 10th of the month, we file a report for the prior month with the federal government. So some of our funds are federal funds. Typically, federal funds come from individuals in amounts of less than $10,000 per year. Then we have the non-federal money. Typically, those are larger donations from individuals. And then all the money that's corporate is by definition non-federal, goes into some people call it the state account. It's more properly the non-federal account. So the state reports that are filed with the Secretary of State, those are at less regular intervals because those intervals are very much tied to elections, like pre-election report, post-election report, semi-annual report, year-end report. So those are available to see online as well. And if anyone wants a copy, I do have PDF files that I can send out. And then at every meeting of the board and every convention, I always report our cash on hand. Now, just to give you if you want me to take a few minutes, I'll just run through.
Yeah, I do, because we have some questions on that. Because
okay, so let me just briefly. Let me just tell you. So briefly, in the last calendar year, we brought in almost $24 million. Okay, so where did we get that from? Well, 33% of that came from national committees, like the RNC, and kind of like tied to Kevin McCarthy and the National Party. 33% of the money, almost $8 million. We got 13% of our revenues from Team Count. Now, typically, that's where we're raising money for people who agree with us on ballot propositions. They give us money, then we send out mailers, saying vote no on Prop 1. That was the horrible abortion proposition. So that's what Team Cal does. And then 35% of our money came in through what's called the One Ask program, also known as the Memorandum of Understanding. So that's a joint fundraising project where we work with the state Senate leadership on the Republican side and the Assembly Republican leadership to raise money together. So it's called the One Ask program. That was 35% of our revenues, just over $8 million. And then there was legislative income of 7%, $1.6 million. And so then only 13% of all the money that we took in as a party was really raised independently by the party. Convention income, small dollar donations that the party gets directly, only 13%, so just under $3 million. That's not very much money that the party is raising all by itself. If we could raise more of that type of money, That's the key where we would have more money to hand out across the board to all candidates. I could go through how we spent that money
No,
if you want me to.
let me make a clarification point here. We'll come back to you. Because I gotta be honest, Greg, in college, I slept through accounting, which is why you have an accounting. But let me just make a couple points here. Do you as treasurer decide how the money is spent, or is that done more by the chairperson?
Okay, so there is a budget process. Each department head of our staff. So for example, we have a political department, we have a data department, we have an accounting department, we have a finance department. Each department head puts forth their budget of what they think they need for their department. Mario Guerra is the budget chair. He was appointed by Jessica Patterson. We have a budget committee. Okay, so the staff prepares the budget. Mario basically looks it over, then presents it to the budget committee, who then looks it over and has maybe some questions or comments about it. Then it goes to the full board of directors for approval. So once the board has approved it, we then have an approved budget. And then as treasurer, I have a responsibility to make sure that nothing is spent that is not budgeted.
So I want to be clear on that. Okay, so make sure, because again, I'm not the brightest brick in the shed, which is why they put me as the moderator, and I'm not running, Greg. And by the way, in comparison to the Democratic Party in California, how much did our competition?
You just cut out there, Mike,
quick,
but I actually don't know.
Steve,
I don't know how much the Democrat, I don't follow that, but I am told that it is many, many, many orders of magnitude greater than what we do. And then also it's hard to draw direct parallels because the Democrats, so much of what they do is tied in with labor unions. So
fair.
Right.
I'm just saying in comparison. Okay. So and your job as treasurer is not really to fundraise, correct? Your job
that's right. Yeah. I don't raise the money. I oversee. So for example, every Thursday we have money in. So I oversee what's come in and
so
how that's
you watch the vault, you don't fill the vault. You got to keep
I do. I watch the vault. I have custody of all of the funds. Okay. I oversee all of the funds.
Because that's
but I don't decide. I don't raise
how
it.
They're spent.
I don't decide how to spend it.
Correct. And I think
now I do question it though. I mean, if I see an invoice, I'm like, well, what is this? And why are we paying this? And what's this late fee? And why is this person, tipping so much? And I mean, I look at, why did we rent that car and pay for the full tank of gas if someone only drove 50 miles. I'm horrible like that. People know that I like watch all that, and they have the fear of God in terms of wasting any money, as they should.
The point is, for a lot of people out there asking the question, everybody knows it's in everybody's mind, that we don't put money into state assembly and state senate candidates, and that's not really what the treasurer's job is, to make that decision or to raise money. That's why
that's correct.
The only incumbent, if you will, on the call today. So I'm going to make that point, let you get out alive. And by the way, I want to compliment. We're going to come back to the questions that everybody has. But I also like to say I'm really, really proud to all of you on the call tonight. Not only you asking good questions, but in the poll I put out there, part of the problem we have, and we'll get to proxies, which everybody is against, if not, just roll with me, because you damn well should be. And almost without exception, everybody I'm polling tonight is going to the convention. And I can't stress anything more important than that. The proxy situation, I'm going to get everybody's stance on that, but I think I could say without hesitation that ghost votes probably shouldn't be taking place. I'm going to leave that for some of the candidates. But the reality is you have to participate, not just be a delegate. So I'm pretty proud about the people we have on tonight, that you are indeed a delegate. And I believe the last one we have, and then we're going to have all these questions coming and going, is Tom Hudson, correct? Tom,
yes, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
No, I can't. I'm kidding.
Okay.
So Tom, let me explain what Tom's going to do in about 5 minutes here. In addition to the candidates running, this is for the new delegates, there are bylaws which are proposed, which change how the party is run. Those bylaws are about as important, and they are not the platform. This isn't what the party stands for. That is the platform that goes to a platform committee. And Steve Frank can correct me if I screw this up, but the bylaws are the rules that are proposed to change the way things are run. Tom Hudson now is going to talk about two, and only two, Tom, bylaw proposals that are in that we think will make the party a better place. And then I will get to all these questions and I will dole them out to the candidates. Tom Hudson, you're on the air.
Thank you. I'm going to go very quickly because there's a lot to say, but if you have questions for me, I'll give you my email address in a minute. So if you want to grab a pencil and a piece of paper or something, I will give you that in just a second, because I want to encourage you, if you have more detailed questions that we can handle during this webinar, I could be glad to answer them at length. I've attended every convention since 1987, and I've held a very long list of offices in the party. So to get right to the point, we have a very severe election integrity problem with our own state central committee. It's actually much worse than anything that's going on with public elections. So we have proxies that are being bought and sold openly by special interests. And like at the last convention, as many of you know, we had more proxy votes than we did live delegates. So it almost didn't matter what the live delegates thought. There were more proxies voting, and a lot of those were bought and paid for. So it's sort of like ballot harvesting, but it's a lot worse, because we all know that a majority of the votes cast aren't harvested ballots. But by contrast, on our state central committee, a majority of the votes are from these proxies. So the first thing to understand is that part of the problem with the proxy situation is it not only allows special interests to corrupt the process by purchasing votes, but it also discourages people from attending conventions, which costs us a lot of money when people aren't present. And our conventions have actually been losing money. So I haven't been on the board lately. So when I was on the board, they made money, but lately they've been losing money. And that's partly because proxies that are free outnumber delegates that have to pay convention registration fees. And that costs our party a lot of money and causes the conventions to lose money. But what's disturbing is this corrupt system is infesting all other aspects of the party in ways that a lot of people on this call, if you're new, you might find it difficult to believe. Like State Assemblywoman Megan Dolly, for example, elected herself as the chair for 5 different counties. Now, we've never had a rule in California before, to my knowledge, going back to the early days of the party, we've never had a rule that said you could only be elected as chair of one county. I was chair of Placer and Alameda, but not at the same time. But we've never had such a rule, but we never had to. But you see, when these proxies can be appointed by somebody who's a chair for multiple counties, and those proxies can be bought and sold, suddenly you have people who like to be chair of 5 counties at once so they can make the appointments from 5 counties. So that's an example of the corruption we have. Also, people who have never attended conventions ever, never done their job, are routinely reappointed. And in fact, it's almost encouraged because their proxies can be sold if they're not going to be at the convention. And I could go on with more of that, but I'll get right to the point of the 2 amendments. So the first amendment would actually say that proxy votes aren't for sale. It would outlaw the buying and selling of proxies, and you wouldn't be allowed to solicit or conspire with other people to buy or sell proxies. That's a baby step, but it's important to understand that our party bylaws don't prohibit the sale of proxies. State law does not prohibit the sale of proxies. Robert's rules, although Robert's rules discourages the use of proxies under any circumstances, but Robert's rules doesn't explicitly ban the use of proxies. Robert's rules, newly revised, is the parliamentary authority for the California Republican Party, so that's why I mention it. So we really don't have any rule against buying and selling proxies. And for that reason, there's been no enforcement of any kind. Now, just passing a rule is not going to solve the problem. I have a couple other amendments I'll talk about, but I'll just one tonight. But so that's not going to solve the problem. But keep in mind, most of the people on the State Central Committee are public figures. They're honest folks. If you tell them that it's cheating to sell your proxy, most of them would never even consider it if it's breaking the rules. So just literally the baby step of saying it's illegal to sell your vote to somebody else, that baby step will actually solve a substantial part of the problem, not the whole problem, but we got other solutions. So, Mike, you got a question or? Okay, so that's the First Amendment, is to ban the sale of proxies. The Second Amendment is the one delegate, one vote amendment. And that amendment would say that right now, any delegate or any associate delegate can carry up to 2 proxies. I wrote that rule 20 some odd years ago, but we had a very different quorum situation then than we do now. I also changed the quorum subsequently. So that's why I can tell you more about that later. But what this would do is make sure that everybody has to be present in order to cast a vote. If you can't attend a convention, you could still issue a proxy, but only to an associate delegate who doesn't otherwise have a vote. So everybody voting has to be physically present at the convention, sitting in those seats, paying the same convention registration fee that the rest of us have to pay. And that eliminates a lot of the corruption problem right there. It makes it much more difficult to buy votes. If you also have to buy a hotel room for the person who's going to be casting, you also have to pay the convention registration fee to the party and all that kind of stuff. It's much more difficult to have the corruption that we have now if you have to be present to vote. So the Second Amendment is the one person, one vote, or one delegate, one vote, whatever you want to call it. And those are the 2 amendments. And with that, I will just give you my email address if you have questions about the current rules or the practices. I've been on the rules committee and I've gone to all the conventions since 1987. And my email address, yeah.
Can you put your email in the chat?
Yes, I will.
Most people aren't as quick as you. Write it in the chat. You can type it in. Okay,
I will do that.
Everybody can see it and ask you all kinds of questions. Okay. Mr. Lee DeMaio, I've had you join as a panelist, but I'm not going to have you talk yet, okay, until we get to the end. So please put yourself on mute because I want to get to all these questions. For everybody to know, Lee DeMaio is a fine human being who does a lot of work behind the scenes, and the way he's looking at the camera has a very large head. Which just makes you smart, Lee. There's nothing wrong about that. So now I want to get to some of these questions here. That I hope, and if we don't get to these questions, Heather, could you type in to the chat the RCC website? On there, you can put in inquiries. So if we don't get to your question tonight, we will make sure to dole it out. All right, so let's start with some of the ones we have in the question and answer section. Okay, we have a question about veterans. What are we doing for veterans, and how is the California Women Republican Party? How are you going to work with them? Mike Cargile, I'm going to dole that off to you.
Thanks, Mike. Well, first and foremost, I am a veteran. I was in the Army. I come from a long line of Army officers, and we need to take care of our veterans before we need to offer assistance to people coming into our country illegally. We have a huge problem with homelessness, drug use, and this all stems from the family. And this comes back to our party and its platform. A central part of our platform is a reverence and a priority for the nuclear family, mom and dad and the kids. And this is a key element of our society that's been lost. I know this from talking to my grandfather, who was in World War II. When he came home from the war, the PTSD issue was really a non-issue because they came back to families and jobs. When today's soldiers come back home, the closest thing they had to a family was their unit, and they come back to a society where they don't fit in, and it's demoralizing. As far as working with the Republican women, all the different groups, as long as we're working in the same direction, we can work with anybody. And that's a conservative direction for our country and our party. We are the party of morals, and we have values. And as long as we're all working together in support of those, I don't care who it is, we'll work together to achieve the ends, which is the ultimate goal, which is getting Republicans in office and keeping evil people out of office.
Mike Cargile, one more question for you that I'm going to keep on rolling in. Somebody says the Democratic opponents have used the communist tactic of et cetera, of incremation to infiltrate and occupy. When opponents have taken control of California culture, we may want to use those tactics too. How will you help change, I think is the question for a lot of people, the message of the party, the message of the platform itself?
Well, I think changing it is the wrong course. What has happened presently is we've deviated from the message. We have leadership in place, and I'm not pointing fingers, and I'm not going to go negative at all in this campaign. But the leadership has left the platform. And when you leave the values, your core values, then you're really nothing. Without the platform, we're not a party, in the same way that without a constitution, we're not a country. And what my job is to pull the party back to the right on message. But I have to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And we need leaders who are personally people of integrity, so they can message this and live it in front of the voters. And I guarantee you 99.9% of the time, the voters will spot this true belief in something that's greater than what we've experienced. And like I said before, people are looking for this. You look at this revival at Ashbury and all of this taking place because people are lost and they're looking for direction. And we're the party of direction. We just haven't been pointing the way.
Fair enough. And now I'm going to ask for some help from Steve Frank, because I don't know who to address this question to. Steve, who in the party hierarchy is in charge of election integrity? And before I even allow you to answer, I see from there, and there's a news flash that doesn't make you excited. It makes me excited. The great city of Chicago, regardless of hell or high water, will have a new mayor. So it may be safe for me to go back to baseball games there again. So I think that's good news coming in. Lori Lightfoot has been announced, has not made the finals. So that's a good slimmer of hope. But Steve, back to you. Who in the party structure, or do we know, is in charge of election integrity? Is that the secretary, or who is that?
I thought you were going to announce that all of us are going to meet the #1 opponent to proxies at our convention, and that's going to be Kevin McCarthy, who's going to be at our convention, who's the #1 opponent of, no offense, Tom, but
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy is the #1 opponent to proxies, and he's gotten rid of them. Now you have to follow in his steps and get rid of them in California. The answer to the question is the assignment has been made to the current secretary, Randy Burkholz. There is a 4-member committee which meets very rarely, has yet to make a single recommendation of a lawsuit to stop the Dominion, to stop the dead people getting absentee ballots, people in Texas and Idaho getting absentee ballots. They've done absolutely nothing, but they have had a few Zoom meetings, but no recommendations of changes for the Republican Party to activate. And sadly, while we may have some disagreement on the what happened in LA with the 1.2 million people being taken off the rolls, or might be taken off, that was done by Judicial Watch and Election Integrity Project California. That was not done by the California Republican Party, which is responsible for honest elections. Now, I will quote her. Our chair, Jessica Patterson, has says California has fair and honest elections. Now, just ask that of the people in San Joaquin County, the people in Lodi, where a Democrat councilman stuffed the ballot boxes, finally, after 2 years, got arrested. And when the sheriff did the investigation, found out the whole county was corrupt in the balloting process.
So, Steve, let me throw this question then to David Dillon. It sounds like the secretary is in charge. David Dillon, what would you do different about election integrity than's being done in the party today?
Well, I think I would do my job. If this four-member,
come on.
This 4-member group probably needs to be more aggressive. I'm not going to promise that I would create lawsuits and so on day one, but I would dive right in quickly on what my role is, and perhaps assemble these 4 members quickly and so on. I had forgotten. I kind of knew about this because I visited with Stan. I forgot about Dominion. That's an interesting one. That completely left my mind earlier. But I would do the job, stay in my lane, and try to do it terrifically, and address that at a macro level in the state of California, and then look at, as Steve said, every individual county. In my Imperial County, there's things that go on like that. And so it's a full-time volunteer job. I'll say that, but I would definitely be very aggressive in working with the entire California Republican team and all the facets that come with it, the staff, the media, and so on, and trying to correct this, get us on a corrective course.
Fair enough. Thank you. I'm going to throw the next question to Mark Wright. Mark Wright. Some people are asking, and I think it's a good point. We know that Placer County has a higher percentage of Republicans. And speaking for Los Angeles, we know, let's just say we don't, to be fair. But how would you work with the other county chairs to bring the best practices, and which is, I think, in my opinion, maybe not yours, is lacking throughout the state today? So how would you, as the vice chair, work throughout the state to bring the other chairs with best practices, if you will?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, one of the things that you think that since we had a majority Republicans, we would have had majority school board members being Republican and majority of our board of supervisors, but we didn't, not until we took over the county as our local party by being active. We kicked out people who had been in the school board for 38 years. Then that was in a Republican county. So why is that? It's because the local party wasn't active. And the local party wasn't active because the people weren't recruiting local candidates to run. Now, there's a lot of people out there who want to run, but the problem is they don't know where to turn, where to go. And since once we started, we ran 9 people for school board the first time. After we ran the 9 and we were successful getting all 9 elected and taking over 3 school boards, the next time we had 40 people come and want to run for school board. That's just by being active. And so I would take that to the rest of the county out there and say, hey, we just need to start doing something, get a county together, start vetting candidates and raising some money and start doing it. Once you start doing it, people will come, but you have to start somewhere. And right now our local counties don't have any look at local governments. They're always looking at electing the people at the assembly level or the state assembly level, the state senators. But that's not what we need to do. Our responsibility is the local area, our local board of supervisors, our local schools, our city councils. That's where our job is for the county. And that's what we need to change the focus. And that's what I would bring to the state COGOP is show the state party, the county parties, how to be successful. We've already done it in Yuba County. Yuba County was a dead party. They ran for the first time. They ran people locally because we took the program that I started was adopt a county program. Basically, any strong county can pick up a weaker county next to it and help them and work together and do things together, like fundraising. That's how we do it.
Okay, next question I have on to throw to you again here, which I think is a legit question I've wondered about myself, because we know Greg kind of watches the vault, doesn't fill the vault as treasurer. But how is it possible that really almost aggregate so many groups like San Diego, Placer County, even Nevada County, and have more money almost aggregate than the party itself? I mean, is that something that your certain central committees are doing well, or how would you change that? How would you bring best practices of money raising to the central party, if you will?
Right. Well, the biggest problem with money raising is that people won't give money unless they feel like they're going to use it correctly. And so we started raising money in Placer County better when we started running people locally. And when the people saw that we were actually doing something locally and making a difference in people's lives, then they are willing to give us money. But until we actually show that we are going to elect good people to office, they're not going to give them money. So they don't want to give money just to go sit in someone's bank account and be used for something you never know really where it went. And like I had people who gave us money at a local level who asked me, where's the money going to go? I said, it's going to go for local candidates. It's not going to go for salaries. It's not going to go for cars to drive around in. It's going to go for actually getting people elected. And I believe once we start doing that at the state level, the money will start to flow again. but people will not give money to an organization they don't feel is being effective.
So a good question came up. We know you're running against two opponents. I'm going to give you one thing to say that's different than your two opponents without naming them by name.
Well, the biggest thing is that I don't support CRT. I don't support affirmative action. And I'm the county chair. I'm the only one that's running that's been a county chair, is actually knows how county chairs have to work and how to get people working together.
Fair enough. Mike Cargile,
Here.
glad to hear it. Let me ask you the same question. You're running against a couple different opponents. Without naming them by name, what is different about you? If I'm going to the convention and it's not a Russian election, oh, I didn't say that. Maybe I did. In other words, it's not by proxy for the people on the floor. What is the one point you want to drive home while you're the man for the job?
Well, first of all, I'm the only Republican in the race because I'm the only conservative in the race. And second, I'm the only one that I know of who literally embodies, promotes, supports the party platform above everything else, because I truly believe that is how we fix the party. We go back to the basics, kind of the back to the future approach. And if we message this correctly, we will bring in the Latino community. They're already conservative. They just think we're against them. So the same with labor unions and trade unions. It's the same message, and it's not being presented to them because the people running this party, who are my opponents, don't believe in the party platform. Therefore, they don't promote it or support it. That's really the biggest thing. It's the platform. It's always the platform.
Got it. Everyone out there, if this is your first convention, it's only my third or fourth compared to these veterans, but I want to take a second, and Lee, I'm going to bring you on in 1 second and talk about proxy collection. Make it briefly, I haven't had dinner. Is a couple things that'll be going on. Look for us, the people on the call, look for familiar faces. Many of us will be gathering Friday night simply to get to know each other. And this is from all sides of the party at the Hyatt Bar, if you will, or around there. And Saturday night, we'll be handing out tickets within limit to a showing of the movie Grid Down, Power Up as a chance to gather and talk about a unifying issue, which is power. There's a schedule of events put up, but if it's your first convention, or you don't know what's going on, ask somebody. And this is one of my passions, even though I'm not running for something. The key is showing up. And the key is making sure that you go to the convention and participate in a committee meeting where it's important to you. Vote, stay around Sunday for the vote on the floor, et cetera, et cetera. And if there's something happening that you don't understand, and believe me, there's lots about this I don't understand. Rule number 16.4, Mrs. Chairman, by the Roberts Rule of Order divided by 6. And you're like, what? What are we doing here? The reality is, ask somebody next to you. But understand what the process is. Because the problem a lot of the time is, again, we lose because we get wrapped up in the this and the that. But let's face it, everybody, we do have a party that's not exactly killing it in elections. Now, I'm going to take a quick look before bringing Lee on and making sure I get answers to many of these questions here, okay? And if I've missed your question, I apologize. Again, we're going to try not to go longer than 15 minutes here. But one of the things which is important to note, it's not just going to the convention and not do, that's it, I'm done, I voted, it's good, had a great spaghetti dinner, met Netter, I decided, wow, he's a lot worse looking person than he is on TV. The reality is, if you can't go, if you are going, you need to make sure they were able to collect some of the votes called proxies from the people that can't go. And yes, there's a system in place on the other side. They've become really good at it. That's why, to Steve Frank's point, we need to eliminate proxies. But now I'm going to bring on Lee DeMaio, who's one of the smartest guys I know, outside of me, of course. And Lee's going to talk about, I think, what we're doing to do some of this proxy collection, which again, a proxy is from someone that can't go. And as a delegate on the floor, you could have your vote and two of the other people that don't go there. And we want you to vote what we're going to call the correct way. Lee DeMaio, welcome to the Republican Conservative Coalition show.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. And by the way, it's Lee DeMaio.
Well, what the hell?
But I get that all the time. That's okay.
I like mayonnaise and I'm hungry. I already told you that.
Yeah, just think of mayonnaise and you got how it's found for you. But in any case, I am going to talk about the proxies. I'm going to talk two levels of them. The first level is what's bringing us together as the RCC. We are absolutely against the proxy system as it currently exists. It's corrupt. It keeps this leadership team in power and keeps you guys, the grassroots, powerless. So I'm going to encourage you to go to our website, RepublicanConservativeCoalition.org, and look at the video there that talks about how the party works and how it doesn't. And it describes how the proxy system is being used to keep tight control over this party, and that has basically destroyed its effectiveness. So having said that, we have a goal as the Republican Conservative Coalition to change the proxy rules. Those are the two rules that Tom Hudson has put forward, and we are going to try to push those as far as we can to get them implemented at this convention. Kevin McCarthy has stated all the arguments of why proxies are horrible. Now it's time for everybody to understand why proxies are horrible, just the same in the California Republican Party. Now, having said that, once you see the video, you'll know that you have to control votes to be able to make a change. So until the proxy rule is changed, we as the Republican Conservative Coalition are going to play the game and collect proxies. I've seen some of you ask on the chat, how do I can't go to the convention, how do I get a proxy? We have people in each region of the state who are going to be collecting proxies. We have people that are going to be bringing the proxies with them to the convention for those folks who think like us but can't go. And I'm going to put in the, I guess I'll put it in the chat, Mike, my email address and my phone number. If you want to get us your proxy and you have no way of doing that, call me. I'll get it arranged.
Lee, could you also put in Tom Hudson's email?
I'm going to ask Tom to do that since he knows what it is.
Yeah, I know. I don't see him putting it in, so.
I put it in the chat, but it's just my last name, Hudson, and then TN like Thomas Nolan.
Would you
So
put it in
Hudson TN
again?
at yahoo.com.
Everybody's asking for your email. You're apparently very popular.
So it's just Hudson TN at yahoo.com. It's my last name, Hudson, and then my first two initials, TN. Hudson TN like Thomas Nolan at yahoo.com.
Got it.
Okay, and I've got mine in now, I think. Great spell it right. Lee at LeeJDeMaio.com is my email address. And my phone number is 760-580-7276. I've already had people calling me about how do I get a proxy in, how do I do the procedure. It is, if you've never done it, it's confusing, but it's simple as pie. Once you're explained to it, I will take your call and explain it to you. The idea is that we need to control as many delegate votes as possible. We need our candidates who you've met tonight to be elected. They're all on board with us, I believe, of changing the proxy system that has so corrupted our party. It's one of the reasons why we've endorsed them. And so we need those votes, and if you can't get there, your vote by proxy can help elect these candidates. And then when it comes time, to get the proxy rules changed, we'll probably have to do it on a floor fight Sunday because those proxy rules will never get out of the Rules Committee as approved. And by the way, if you watch our video, you'll see why. And then we need your vote, your proxy vote, your in-person vote, which is even better, to help us get these two bylaw changes through. Tom, can you quickly mention what bylaw change numbers they are? Because every delegate can go to the CAGOP website and download these proposals. They get a chance to read those. Could you remember what the two numbers are for yours?
I haven't memorized the order, but I'm logging into the CAGOP website right now, so I can get that for you. But I don't have the numbers memorized.
Okay, so Tom will have that for you in a minute. But that's basically how it is. Call me, email me. We will get somebody from the RCC to get your proxy and to get it processed correctly and voted correctly. Okay. Mike, is that what you wanted me to talk about? Is there anything else?
That is exactly what I wanted you to talk about.
Okay.
Heather, I know we probably missed some questions here tonight. It's 8:06. Steve, when are we having, we're doing this again, aren't we, in about a week?
That's correct. We are going to do it in about a week. Another one.
Is that on the Thursday night? Heather, when is that? Is that Thursday night? Help me out.
I don't know. It would probably be next Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. I don't think we're doing it Wednesday night.
It must be Tuesday night again at 7 o'clock because
Okay.
Thursday night people are traveling.
So everybody out there, okay, you'll see emails from the RCC. We're sending this out to communicate. Everyone out there, as I said, as we kind of bring this session to an end here, the reality is this: it's time for a change in the Republican Party, not change from being a Republican, but a change within the Republican Party. It is a participation sport. Obviously, I could see from the great group we've had on tonight, everyone agrees there's lots that needs to be changed. We all may not agree on what needs to be changed, but we do agree there needs to be a change. And you, if you're a delegate, have the ability to make that change. And we can't change California unless we change the core of who we are, which is the Republican Party. We look forward to your communication. Please go to the RCC website when you can. You can find me pretty easily. And God bless you and good night. Thank you very much.